My name is Jordan, and I'm from Indiana. Last summer, I started my third viewing of How I Met Your Mother. My first girlfriend had just broken up with me, and the show felt like the only thing that could get me through those first 3 days. I remember watching Return of the Shirt very distinctly. I was practically shouting at Ted the entire episode. And while the topic hit a little close to home at that point, I realized how interesting it was to be able to view this show with that new perspective. One of someone who had been broken up with. I think that's the beauty of this show. I get something new out of it every single time I watch it.
I'm alone, what a pity I won't be soon in New York City. When I see you, please permit me to tell you everything in New York City.
Hello, welcome to How We Made Your Mother. I'm Josh Radnor. I am joined as ever by my dear friend and How I Met Your Mother co-creator, Craig Thomas. Hello, Craig.
Hey, Josh.
We're talking about episode 4, season 1, Return of the Shirt. This episode aired when, Alec?
On October 10th, 2005.
October 10th, 2005. Nearly 20 years ago.
Oh, it's so long ago. It's so painfully long ago. I can't handle it. Okay.
All right, Craig, who do we have joining us today? I'm very excited to have our guest today.
Appropriately enough, we have the writer of this episode, Return of the Shirt. In the entire run of How I Met Your Mother, there were only 2 writers who were there from day one, from the pilot, like the pilot punch-up session, right? Hired onto the show on the pilot, there 208 episodes, 2 writers. One was Chris Harris, another awesome all-timer who we'll get to at some point. And the other one is our guest today, the writer of Return of the Shirt, Courtney Kang.
Welcome to
the show, Courtney Kang.
Woo-hoo. Hi, Courtney.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my God, we're so happy you're here.
Thanks for giving us a decade of your life,
here.
By the way. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks for that decade.
A full decade. We got that.
Yes.
Did we carry? I don't think we got to 40, right? We were both in our 30s and almost got to, I think I'm a little older than you. I think maybe just shy of 40 when the show, and we did our 30s on How I Met Your Mother, right? That's pretty much it.
But I always tell people I started the show in my late 20s. I think I was like 28 or 29.
Yeah.
I started the show like single. I had just started dating my now husband, and I left the show a mother of 2, like staring down 40. So it was those like, and I feel like what was great about it is all of us were kind of in that sort of same age bracket, and we were going through what the gang was going through.
Right.
And that was totally informing the stories, like Lily and Marshall getting married, starting to have children, career stuff. Like we were going through it with the gang. And I think it was like, and we were all going through it. You know, the cast was going through their things, the writers, the crew, everybody.
It wasn't like the Hollywood, 28-year-olds playing high school students kind of like silliness. Like we were in the pocket of the era that we were showing, And
the writing staff wasn't like these grizzled veterans who'd been doing it lots of years. And if this show doesn't work out, we'll go on to some other show. Like this was our shot, right? This was our show. This was going to be our show. We're the same age as the cast. Courtney, you were a little younger than me, but we were basically contemporaries. And it felt like we were all sharing material and sharing stories, and we all spoke the same language. And I think that was like so key. It's really interesting. So Return of the Shirt is, of course, a dating episode. It's not a relationship episode. It's like dating hell. Return of the Shirt. You were like, talk about, do you remember, because I don't, where the idea originally came from of like that idea of going back to that person who's stuck in the back of your head and you go, wait a second, why don't I try that again? Like, was that from, I forget if that was from your life or that was the room, just that specific thing of I'm going to excavate back and find this person. And maybe that was the right person. Did that come from your life? I forget.
I think there were like 2 sort of fundamental truths that we got to that I think I might have brought to the room, or that we sort of like build on, or maybe somebody else did. I'm not exactly sure, but the idea of it really being hard to break up with someone always rang very true to me. And I'm kind of like a path of least resistance person. And so I would just sort of like, it's just easier to like go along with this. And so I think like that was one of the germs of the idea of like, like it's hard to break up with people. And also the idea that it's so easy to look back and reminisce and be like, hey, that person was great. Like, maybe there's something there. Like that's, like why didn't that work out? And you sort of like, you talk yourself into things, and I think it's a little bit like wanting to rewrite history. It's a little bit the romantic idea of like, I've changed, and so I think it was like, I think that's what I loved about the rewatch of this episode. I think it's grounded in these two very universal ideas that we all fall victim to,
Right. Yeah, it makes me think one thing about the agony of breakups, and it's agonizing to be broken up with, but I have found it no less agonizing to break up with someone, especially
totally.
If you care about them. Obviously, you've spent some significant time with them, presumably, but also like I just don't like hurting people's feelings, right? Like I avoid it at all costs, and there's something about the inability to have hard conversations actually makes things much worse. You end up making much more terrible
so much worse.
decisions that hurt people. And I also love that idea of the kind of like euphoric recall of a relationship. Like you don't remember why you broke up with them. It's like the highlight reel of a relationship comes back to you and you're like, they were delightful. What was my problem? And then you think it must have been me. It couldn't have. And I've tried to revisit some of those things, and you go in with the best of intentions, and it's astonishing how quickly you get back to the place where you're like, oh yeah, this wasn't right.
Yeah.
It's not that they're a bad person.
By
it's
the
not
way,
that I'm a bad person.
In the episode, it is astonishingly fast.
It's very fast.
It's like I almost wish every time we watch an episode now, my wife and I said, and we're rewatching it, I go, I wish we had 5 more minutes in this episode. It's like, I wish it was 25 instead of 22. Because I'm like, that felt very fast. But I guess that was also kind of the joke. Just like the second he gets her back, he says, I've got to get out of this, which is funny.
It is funnier. In some ways,
yes.
the compression is funnier.
It's funny, but it's also brutal. It's like, Ted, what are you doing? It's so fast. And you don't really know why. You don't know. He doesn't ever show his work. That was the
it's ineffable.
No.
He's just,
it's
I
ineffable.
have to get out of this. He never even explains why. It's like, it's ineffable. Yeah, it's ineffable.
So, Courtney, also, do you remember like where the shirt, the kind of talismanic object of the episode came from?
I can't remember. I couldn't remember that. I feel like that was your pitch. I feel like that idea of going back in your, like the shirt is this key that unlocks a door into the past that leads to her, right? Like that. How do we get there?
To be honest, I can't remember how we got there. I think it might have been a Carter thing that like. The shirt that it like the shirt somehow connected it to the I don't think I'm not
that feels like it could be a Carter thing. Like Carter would come in with a new shirt and have a whole new personality. You'd be like, yeah.
I or maybe it was a room thing. To be honest, I can't really remember. But you know what's in. Oh, please go.
No, I was just going to say that's a good portrait of like what it's like to be in a writer's room, because sometimes you know what you pitch and sometimes it's just like this hive mind kind of, if we asked that entire room whose idea it was, they might be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's just an interesting writer's room observation, but keep going. I cut you off.
No, it's also like a writer's room observation is like things that I'm like, I think that was me. I have this like fear some writers listening to me being like, that was my idea.
Totally.
How dare she?
Oh my God.
I mean? And
I
it's
fear
like
that every time.
honest, like I got 3 kids. I don't know what I said.
I don't know anything anymore.
In thinking about the inception of the idea, I remember one thing that the room got really excited about was your character previous to this episode had been interested in Robin and had been going after her. And I remember we got really excited about the idea of kind of flipping the switch and putting you in the position where your character, someone wanted you and you were the one that had to break their heart.
Yes.
And, also I think it sort of helped to build up the Ted character of, he's this romantic guy who desperately wants to fall in love and wants the great girl, but also he's a character who women want and who women want to fall in love with, but it's not that easy. It has to be someone great. And so I think it kind of did good series groundwork.
Yeah.
That it's like, Ted's not just a guy that pines after girls, and he could get lots of girls. He's had this history. And to like put your character in this different light, I think it was a new sort of like
that's a good point.
Color for
that's how we got there,
you know?
and that's the kind of through line that gets you to an idea. Because I think we started off, we said let's give that extra dimension to Ted, and I also remember, you're making me remember this. We said, let's scuff Ted up a little in this one. Let's make Ted in the wrong.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like he can't just be this guy who gives great speeches and says all the right things and stuff. Just the stars haven't aligned, but he's always going to be in the right. Ted fucked up in this one.
Yeah.
Like he did. This was a bad.
Totally.
This was a bad idea.
With most Ted screw ups, he has visible bruises and injuries to show for it. Like I think this is the first time like Ted shows up black and blue, but not the last.
And I wrote you this little ditty to sing to you in New York City.
We'll be right back. How We Made Your Mother is sponsored by BetterHelp. The question for today is, how do we get support from a therapist or community? Who is your support system, and how have they changed your life? Now, Craig, I don't mean to get political here. We're just talking about a TV show. We're having a great time, right?
Okay, where are you headed with this?
Yeah. But this is always like flashing lights ahead. We're about to get canceled. You know that kind of like tendency of people, like that very American thing of like, I did this all by myself. And it's like, no one did anything by themselves ever.
No one did anything.
We're talking about a TV show that was made by many, many, many people, many brilliant people. I am the product of, we both had parents and teachers and mentors and therapists and leaders and counselors. So I push back against that idea that we do anything on our own. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah. I mean, no one does anything on their own. I do therapy every single week. I'm such a believer in it. It's I talk to the same therapist I have been since How I Met Your Mother. So through that entire 10 years and beyond, and now I do it every Monday. It starts the week off right for me. Hey, and one way you can get some help is through BetterHelp. They're fully online. They're making therapy affordable and convenient. They're serving over 5 million people worldwide.
That's a lot. You can access a diverse network of more than 30,000 credentialed therapists with a wide range of specialties. I liked therapists so much I married one. Easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost.
We can't endorse marrying your therapist, but if it happens, then it happens.
She wasn't my therapist, just to clarify.
Just to be very extra clear, she was not your therapist. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/yourmother to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/yourmother.
Craig, I've known you a long time now.
You have?
Coming up on two decades, right? We've known each other 20 years.
20 years.
And I can tell our listeners, you're a man who, I wouldn't say you're obsessed with clothes, but you like to look good. You like
if you know one thing about me, it's that you know.
Yeah.
I will say this. Here's the best thing I can say about Quince. We're talking about Quince. They sent us a free thing. They sent us each a free thing. You were a gentleman and gave your free and said to your wife, what free thing would you like? And I was a selfish, horrible person, and I took the free thing for myself. It sounds like the end of the story is going to be I remedied that. No. But what I did do was I have since gone back to Quince, and I paid for a thing because I liked their first thing so much. And the first thing was a sweater, and the second thing, I paid for a thing
for your wife?
No.
What'd you buy?
I bought myself some jeans because I'm a completely
okay.
self-centered person who neneeded jeans. How
do they look?
But
How do they
I
feel?
love them.
Yeah.
They're really, really comfortable and they look good. They're great. Honestly, I voluntarily went back to Quince and said, now I'm going to pay you for something. You know, just if they want us something more free stuff, don't get me wrong. I will accept that free stuff. But I voluntarily, I really like it.
Quince has all the must-haves like Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50, iconic 100% leather jackets, and comfortable pants, as Craig has demonstrated, for every occasion.
It's all about the pants. The best part, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us.
And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, along with premium fabrics and finishes. That's very cool. Respect.
Indulge in affordable luxury. Go to quince.com/yourmother for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/yourmother to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/yourmother. And now, back to the show.
I mean, it's very Chekhov, the idea that this shirt is in Act 1, and then in Act 3, the shirt has to get destroyed. It explodes.
Yes.
The shirt is hung up over the fireplace, and it must be shot. The rifle must be shot in Act 3.
I love scenes that have no words that are very effective. I'm always, as a screenwriter, trying to write them. I remember shooting Ted looking through his closet and then seeing the shirt and pulling it out, and I think I said like, whoa, like, whoa, like it almost feels like Samuel L. Jackson's briefcase in Pulp Fiction. It's like there's a light coming off of it. And I remember, we might have talked about this, Craig, but I remember, I have such a strong memory, and it's so funny that this was nearly 20 years ago, Courtney, but when I walk into the bar wearing the shirt, and I think it's Allie who speaks first, Lily, I forget what she says, like, woo, look at Mr. Shirt or something. And I said, right. And I remember in the run through, you just died at that. Like, you thought it was so funny. And we couldn't remember if it just
Courtney's
said
got a
right
good laugh.
or if it was right. But somehow right became a kind of Mosbyism.
Yes.
Like from that moment on, it was kind of like, right.
Yeah. We did that hundreds of times, I feel, in the show.
Yes. Right.
I love that you remember Courtney laughing at that. Courtney, your laugh
you're so
is
new,
such a
and you're
good
kind of
laugh.
like, is this working? And then you're like, oh, the writer of the episode likes this. Like, that felt good, you know?
Yeah. And she's laughing at your performance. She's not arrogantly laughing at how funny is my joke. Like, that was just to be clear. Courtney was legitimately laughing at you.
But I also love Marshall's line, hot top, bro. That always stayed with me.
Bro.
Yeah.
Hot top, bro. Just one more thing about the kind of scuffing up Ted as someone who both desires and is desired, and also gets his heart broken and breaks hearts. Like, I think if you're in the dating game long enough, you're going to play all the roles. So it's not quite honest to just say like, oh, this is a guy who always gets his heart broken, or this is a guy who's always like leaving. Like, if you're in the game long enough, I don't like that term, the game, but if you're out there long enough, you do end up kind of being a hero and a villain depending on the night, you know?
Yeah. And I like that this episode, like, Ted has real flaws. Like, you know, like, it's not just, oh, he's this like shining knight in shining armor, you know, like, I remember there was a few moments on set with Carter that I think Ted not always behaving correctly is sometimes tough for Carter. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I remember Carter, there was like a few moments of him being like, is this okay? Is this bad? Is this too much? And I remember there was like a few moments I was like, you know, because it's in the beginning. You're just sort of like testing it out. It's
episode 4. It's the fourth one. I mean,
so
you're figuring out what the story can handle and what the audience is willing to accept.
Totally.
Like, and we hadn't aired when we shot this episode, right?
No,
we would not have aired. Yeah, we were good.
So we really didn't know. Like, we were inventing this world and hoping that it landed. I have to say though, one of my all-time favorite How I Met Your Mother gags is breaking up on the answering machine while people are gathered for a surprise party is unbelievable. Where did that come from?
I'm not kidding, Courtney. Did you have any moments like this when you were watching it? And I'm almost sad to admit this, but I forgot that there was the wide and out that you saw the answering machine, and then there's this other horrific reveal that makes it so much worse. I sort of forgot about that second reveal. I don't know what happened in my brain, but it was like it really hit me, and it was hilarious, and it was also like, God, Ted, what were you doing, man? It was like.
Yeah. It's also, but you're missing a joke. It's 3 jokes, right? Because first it's just the answering machine, then it's pull out, oh, you think everyone's listening, and then no, she's not even there.
It's a surprise
she has
party.
to come into the surprise
it's 3
party.
Jokes. It's a triple reveal. Yeah.
That
was there anything when you rewatched it that like you didn't remember and it caught you? I forgot about the triple reveal, I guess is the way to say it. Yeah.
I totally forgot about the triple reveal. Like, it was the same thing for me. I was like, oh, that's funny. I was like, oh, that's good. I was like, good job, us. We were good. I really did enjoy that. The other thing that was sort of funny was I sort of forgot the Robin Barney story in it. Sometimes in my head, I I don't match the right A stories with B story. Do you know what I mean? Like, so when I saw it, I was like, oh, right, this. And it's interesting because I remember in the breaking of it, in the early moments of the show, I think one of the characters we were really still trying to figure out was Robin, because it was like, Ted loves Robin. And she like, how do we make her active? How do we make her interesting? How do we all these things? And I remember I was worried that she's doing this shit on air. Like, will the audience disconnect from her? We thought she was like this career woman, but she doesn't give a shit. And Kobe plays that all so well.
Yeah, she does.
That she's sort of like drawn to the dark side and there's like more to her. And I feel like it was sort of like one of the first steps towards, Robin became such a fun character to write. And Kobe, what she did with it was always so amazing. Yeah. And I feel like this was one of the stepstones along the way that you're like, oh, this girl's weird. This girl's got some like shit going on. Like, what's going on with her?
I think it's the first one, because we've done, this is our fourth episode we're doing on the podcast about, and this is the first one where she is purely in a comedy story. You know what I mean? She has other things to do. She kind of, in episode 3, Sweet Taste of Liberty, she's kind of there in a way to service Lily's story. Lily's thing about she has her ring and she feels like she's not being noticed in the bar anymore. And she sort of support. And in the first 2 episodes, which we keep saying feels like an hour-long episode, the first 2 episodes, the pilot and Purple Giraffe really are almost like an hour. She's the sought-after object, and she's the romantic comedy like heroine, the female lead. This is the first time she gets to be funny. And I think that's a really interesting point. Like, it's a good way to frame it. This is the first time we really figured out she can just be in a comedy story. Yeah. And she's so and I think funny in that story.
It was also like you guys, it was the first time you were really mining her job for pure laughs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's something this is going to sound like such a weird comparison, but Kobe's ability to like speak as a newscaster or like a reporter, like a Metro reporter, it just came to her so easily. It reminded me of, this is such a weird comparison, but Julianne Moore in Boogie Nights, like her porn acting is so genius. Like there's a kind of culture of there's newscaster speak, right? Have you ever seen that? Yeah. There's that woman on like TikTok or Instagram, like who does like, she narrates her family stuff through like like a newscaster voice.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, nice.
But Kobe just, I always found, and especially when we introduced Sandy Rivers, like there was so much good comedy on, what was it called? Wake Up New York, or what was the early morning?
Oh my God, what was it called? Get Up New York, something like that.
Good Morning New York. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was really aggressive. It was like an aggressive title.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a fun comedic well to go back to over the years of Kobe at work or Robin at work, and how, just like how no one was quite watching, how it was like this glamorous job, but it was also not glamorous really.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
And it's the moment she realizes no one watches, even her boss at the station doesn't watch the
Shout out to Janet Kagan's husband.
Janet Kagan, our script supervisor, her husband is great as that guy.
Yeah.
And it's the other thing we discovered in that episode, in addition to just how funny Kobe is, and when you give her a straight up comedy story, her physical comedy is funny. That fall that she does,
that fall is great.
Spanking her butt with like dead eyes was hilarious. Where she's just like completely dead inside, spanking her butt because life has lost all meaning because no one watches what she does, and this is her finding that out. When she falls, that is a funny. I was watching with Rebecca. She hadn't watched that episode since it aired, I think. And she lost her mind laughing, my wife, at that fall Kobe takes.
It restores Barney as a literal devil. Like we talked a lot about how like Barney's like the devil. He's the tempter of the series.
Yes.
And he's literally just like cackling and handing out bribes and like coming up with ever more devious schemes. And he's the Joker. Like he just wants to create chaos.
He just wants, he wants to see it all burn down.
Yes.
You know what else really made me laugh? It was such a small thing, but this is just a shout out to Allie Hannigan. Her laugh when she like makes herself laugh over the word booger is so funny, honest,
so natural.
Like Allie really has that thing of like as if it's for the first time. Like she's able to do that thing that is basically the basics of good acting, but she does it so consistently,
so naturally.
And I just felt like she really surprised herself with that. I was delighted by it.
Her laughing at Booger was one of my favorite moments in the whole episode. It's right at the beginning, and she just has this you're right.
It's a little throwaway, but it's so charming and funny.
It's great because it's thrown away.
Yeah.
The icky shuffle, Courtney, was that you? Was that a shout out to your husband? I'm trying to think of where the hell we got the icky shuffle from.
Yeah, I think like definitely I'm always trying to squeeze dancing into things. And so I think that did come from, I think the idea, yes, I want to say that was me, but if there's a writer out there that's out there like, fuck you, that was me, I apologize.
This is a great glimpse into writers' minds. You can't even take credit for one thing in this episode. You wrote this episode. You can say it.
I did.
A lot of it's you.
Yeah, no, that I think that might have been me, but yeah, it's funny. In my rewatch too, the other really fun thing I thought about the Rob and Barney story is exactly like you're saying, how he's the Joker. It sort of sets him up as this devil, and Lily, it sort of really solidifies her as like the angel on your shoulder, like trying to do good, wanting to, in terms of like the dynamics of the show and like what everyone's bringing to the group, I think it's a really nice, and I feel like it's interesting, like it sort of sets up the like Barney, Robin have this dark side that they are into. Like it sort of started the bond between them a little bit, that ultimately obviously grew in series. But yeah, it's that storyline there was a surprise for me. I was like, oh yeah, this is here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like the DNA is like, you see where it was kind of planted in. It's not just Marshall, Ted. It's like Marshall, Ted, Lily, like, and how invested Lily and Ted are, or Lily and Marshall are in making sure they have that like back porch fantasy together with the four.
Totally.
They want to complete the quartet for Ted. And she also wants him to do it. Her hitting him like 27 times in the episode. Like she wants him to do it well. She wants him to be a mensch. She wants him to she wants him to be one of the good guys.
I could just shout out as we're thinking about this. I want to call to Hannah Wells, who asks exactly this question. And it goes to also Courtney, as you as the writer. I think people are probably curious about this notion of you being the writer of an episode. This is the first time that we're talking about something like this, where a story is broken in the room and then you go and write it. But how does that connect to the other 10 writers that there are? And she asks, was Lily always supposed to be Ted's greatest teacher in love, or does that spark happen in this episode? So can you talk about what your job is as the writer as compared to what the room is doing, and what you're inventing versus what they're inventing? And this question about who came up with this idea of what that relationship would be between Lily and Ted?
Yeah, I mean, Craig, jump in too. It's, a writer of an episode can mean so many different things on different shows, and like in different instances, it means something different. I feel like in this specific instance, the way, I think what was so great about the way How I Met Your Mother broke stories in the way that Carter and Craig led the room is it always started from like, here's a real thing that happened to me, or here's something I noticed, or here's something about relationships. And people would jump in and go, oh my God, that happened to me. And so if I had to guess, my guess was we started talking about like, it's hard to break up with people. And everybody shared their stories of things they'd done. And it's like, oh my God, what if Ted has to do that? Oh my God, and then what if it's his birthday? And what if it's these things? And it's sort of like, it kind of grows. And that's when a room is fantastic, there's nothing more fun than like pitching on it all together. And then essentially, we sort of go, okay, we have this idea. And then you put it up on a dry erase board and you beat out, the beats of the story of what it can be. And then the writer, I would go off and like put it in an outline and like a Word document. It's like, okay, this scene. Oh, here's a funny joke here. Here's a funny joke there. And then they would come back in the room and everybody would pitch on it, have thoughts. And Carter and Craig would really sort of lead, where the ship is going. And I think, you guys were great showrunners in that. I think they had a really clear North Star of the story they wanted to tell. And then as a writer, it's your job to pitch on how we can get there. Like I'll row this way, you row that way, and then we'll, you know what I mean? And we all knew where we were going. Like there was a certain tone to the show. Like it was really funny, but it was very grounded and had heart. And And so then you go off and you write the episode, and then you bring it back again into the room and people pitch on it. And it's interesting because a lot of times stories will change things will change from a writer's draft. But Rob Greenberg, who, I used to call him Papa because he was so much older. And I've since discovered I'm now 10 years older than he ever was.
He was so young. He was our old guy at 39 or whatever the fuck you
100%.
Sorry, Rob.
But I remember he once said, if you write a script and every line, every joke changes, but the story is the same, and you made the story work, that's a good draft, Because sometimes as writers, there's a joke you love or a moment that sometimes changes for one reason or another. It ultimately doesn't serve the character or where we want to go. So I went off and wrote the script. And fun fact, this is the first TV script I wrote that actually made it to the air.
Oh my gosh.
Because I had written other ones, but the shows all got canceled before. I was always episode 3 or 4, and then it was that 2 and out or something. And so this was a very big this was a very big deal for me.
You did not advertise that fact when we hired you, that you write episodes of shows and they get canceled before they air. We might have thought twice, Courtney. It worked out, but you should have told us.
Courtney, one of the things we're exploring on this show is why this show inspires so much fervor, and why is it so beloved, and why do people watch it over and over, and why do people watch it when they're going through a really hard time in their lives? There's all these kind of mysteries at the heart of what has made this show so durable. And I think you're hitting on something, which is there would be no story that was pitched or accepted to kind of be turned into a draft unless it was grounded in something real. So I think even if the story could spin off into bonkers land, and it was lit really brightly on a soundstage in Hollywood and in LA, and there was laughter coming through that was piped in, it still had this feeling that I know these people, or this happened to me. And I think that's what a lot of what people resonate with.
And I'll give Courtney a lot. Courtney, one thing I love about you, I love many things about you, but you were always so good at bringing in real life stuff and bringing in the basic raw material that could then lead to the story having that feeling Josh just described. Just starting with something real, starting with it's hard to break up with people. It's hard to be broken up with. It's hard to break up with people. Starting with that idea of how finding a thing can kind of unlock a portal to the past, right? He finds a shirt, and somehow the Rube Goldberg machine gets created from that point. And from that point, you say the shirt leads back to this girl, leads back to this whole sordid tale of how he broke up with her. It leads to him getting back into her life and breaking up with her again, also on her birthday in the worst way possible, and culminating in Ted getting the shit kicked out of him. That shot is in slow motion of Ted's POV as he's being beat up.
I forgot that.
And she was so hilarious in that shot.
Shout out
to
Annie Dudek.
Annie Dudek was so she was demonic.
So good. She and I ended up becoming really good friends. A lot of people don't these people. You're just on stage 22, and all these incredible actors and dynamic person. They come to the set, and some of them you really take with you. And we just hi Annie, if you're listening. She was so good on that episode.
Perfect on that episode.
And so, I don't know, she was so, she looked strong and confident and completely woundable all at the same time.
Yes.
Her fragility and her I can't believe I let this happen to me again.
Yeah.
I loved the flashbacks to when he's going through whatever happened to so-and-so, whatever happened to so-and-so. I always loved when Ted could be a silent film star. When he could just drop a meatball and have a horrified look. And that final scene between the two of us at that restaurant, I think is just so funny. I did have this thought when I saw the shirt. I was like, why didn't I button one more button? It looked like two. And I think the costume designer and I had a conversation. Okay, we're going to not button that one. But when you go out to dinner, you're going to button the one because it's fancy. Now it's fancy.
Right.
So
how many days is Ted wearing that shirt in a row, by the way?
Yeah, seriously. he really works it for that whole week or however long they're together. I mean, that's kind of the part of the funny, non-reality of it is he never takes off the shirt the whole episode.
It's ridiculous.
But I loved I loved You're Awesome. Like, I
Oh my
loved that
God.
runner.
So funny.
It's
So
really funny.
You played that great.
I think Ineffable is one of the great How I Met Your Mother jokes. I'm not effable.
That's a Craig Thomas joke. Craig Thomas. I remember when he pitched that, the room like lost it. That was so funny.
So good. So good.
I'm not going to be modest. I'm going to say, yes, that was mine. That one was mine.
That was a great joke.
Courtney's like a good person. She's like, I'm not sure. I'm like, that's mine.
And this old man, he must admit he fell in love with you in New York City.
And now, commercials. End of commercials. Back to show.
I love the lather that Ted gets worked into trying to like
so good.
Be a good guy, and he can't get out of this, and it's her birthday and he doesn't want to do it, and he knows he has to do it, and just ending with, I'm just like super busy right now.
Love that. Love that.
Really made me laugh. And by the time he gets kicked by her, you're kind of like, just put him out of his misery. Like, just end this thing. Like, it's really brutal.
By the way, I think you couldn't on CBS say go F yourself or say F to mean the F word, but that's why Ineffable was really delightful. I was really worried it was going to get knocked out because it kind of is saying Effable, but because we hit it within an actual word, we got it. And that was, I remember taking great joy at the fact that we sort of like flew under the censor's radar because it really is a word.
It's like the Hollywood code in the 40s. Like you had to smuggle stuff in.
Yeah.
Totally. I do.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I do remember that, Craig, because like you would get the memo of the like standards and practices.
We were so nervous.
And I remember us like running. It was like Christmas morning.
Did she ding Ineffable?
It's
a word. It's really a word.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's set up early in the episode in an organic way, and it comes back around. And so we were clever on that one.
I also remember getting the spaghetti thrown at me. And, the crew delighted in that. I remember that. But also having props and costume come on and trying to drape, like they're trying to recreate the first take. So they have to like recreate the pasta splatter on me.
In those moments, you're like, what's my job? How am I getting paid? People are placing pasta on my body, and that's my job today. Yeah. That's a weird job.
It's a living.
Courtney, like even the Robin story, I feel like you like the thing you just said about you were working on shows, you'd write the episodes. I think you even got episodes produced and shot. I'm remembering this whole story now. And then the show would get canceled before it would air, right? I feel like even in the Robin story, you were channeling something. That idea of like, I'm doing something no one sees. Like you experienced that in your actual writing life. And I always feel like there was something. You always found a way to get like some of yourself and your life and some like truth in there. And then again, you build this big Rube Goldberg machine with the writer's room after that. And you say, what's the worst way Ted could break up with this girl? What's the steepest climb to get back in this girl's life? That's how you get to the triple reveal joke about it's an answering machine. It's a surprise party. Ted will always be the guy that broke up with her in an answering machine during her surprise party. And we constructed that elaborate thing to create this steep hill for Ted to climb. But it doesn't start there. It starts from like, let's do an episode about just how hard it is to break up with someone. And then what's the worst way we can imagine that? And he has to somehow clear that hurdle and then break up with her again.
So that's where I feel like How I Met Your Mother was marrying two worlds. It was marrying this like truthful, like more like indie film world with a sitcom. Because you have this incredibly truthful thing, but then you spin it into this like comedic kind of Sunday, right? Like where you're just like, it's insane. You couldn't quite get away with this in a movie. I mean, maybe like a broad comedy or something, but it really keeps it grounded in like sitcom land, but also grounded in this other truthful space that I think How I Met Your Mother was like really pioneering around.
Yes. And I think Craig, what you're remembering. So I had been on these shows that all got canceled, and I had recently gone to my 10-year high school reunion, and people were like, "What do you do?" And I was like, "I'm a TV writer." And they were like, "Well, what shows do you write on?" And I go, "Oh, well, they haven't made it to TV." And
they don't exist. Theoretical like, shows you'll never see.
They were like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, it happens all the time." Like networks, like this was, post must-see TV, like their money's going everywhere. And I was like, well, you can make shows and then you make episodes, but then they don't air. And so like literally people at my high school reunion were like, so you make TV shows, but they're not on TV. It was literally like Romeo and Michelle, like I invented Post-its.
Oh my God.
Like
yes.
I was like, no, like I am a TV writer, I swear. And so I remember like when this episode finally aired, it like I had like gotten over the hump and like the curse was reversed. And so
but you know what else is weird? The thing you're describing, that kind of liminal state where you're not quite on the air, but you're actually making a living being a TV writer.
Totally.
Like you're like in Hollywood, you're like weirdly successful. People in the industry would know exactly what you'd been doing. They would even read about the pilots you wrote on. But like the back home people, the high school friends knowing that you're successful in Hollywood is a whole different game than Hollywood knowing you're successful.
Totally. And so, I think that like existential idea of like, I'm working hard, like I'm on air, I'm a newscaster, but like nobody sees me. Nobody fucking gives a shit. Like,
I think you were channeling that. I really do. I think you were, that's the like nugget of reality. I'm going to do one. That's the kernel of truth.
Hey,
stumbled upon it that grounds that story, and then the story is so much fun off of that, and it seems like crazy nonsense, but there is actually something a little bit true even in that like very funny B story. And I think those stories, when you come into the room and you tell the story about the existential feeling of going to your high school reunion and not being able to prove you actually, like, people think you're lying. They're like, she's pretending she's a TV writer. That feeling goes into that episode, I think. And that's what I loved about our room. Our room is very confessional, right? Or people, you just felt safe telling stories like that. And then it would lead, whether intentionally or not, it would sort of like by osmosis go into a story like that. Like, I don't even remember if we literally connected that episode of your life to this episode of TV, but I think we did. I think we probably talked all about that idea of like being at the beginning of your career and just wanting so badly to feel like you're important and impressive. And the moment you realize you're not, and that Robin getting to go just completely dead-eyed and fall apart inside because she realizes no one watches her at all. And then at the end, she has like this minor victory of like, well, people did watch. This thing where I fell in horse shit seems to be catching on. Catching fire.
There's also something nice, I imagine. I wasn't a writer in the room, but there must be something kind of weird and nice about having these autobiographical like moments or sketches like make it onto the air. And it's not you, but there's something of like your beating heart and your biography that like went out there and delighted people.
In your first ever produced episode, which is also kind of sweet. I totally forgot that was your first. Yes. So what did it feel like? Like you shot that episode at the end of that week. Did it feel like, shit, I'm really a TV writer now? Or did it take it? Did you need it to air? The show had to not get canceled before it aired.
I needed it to air. Like I was on 4 shows before this. One, I didn't get a script. One, I got a script and I didn't get to shoot it. The next one, I got to write a script and I got to shoot it. And literally when we came to set to shoot it, it was Danny Zucker was like, guys, I have an announcement. The show's canceled, but we're gonna shoot this episode tonight. So as you can imagine,
the energy must have been through the roof
when this one finally, it was crazy. Like, this was like a wild time for me because this was my first episode that I wrote. It made it to TV, and I think we aired on a Monday. Yeah. And the Sunday before this aired, the Saturday before this aired, my husband proposed. Oh my God. So like I got engaged, my episode aired, like I was like, wow, it's all happening. Like, this is like, and so it was a really, and I know it was really special.
You had been engaged 4 other times, but never made it to the altar in any of those. That's right. Finally. This was the one.
This is the one. Oh, and this is fun. I was remembering this. The sock monkeys. My husband, I remember when we first started dating, my husband loved sock monkeys, and he had this like tiny, it was like this big, like little sock monkey. Like,
is that from Zach, the sock monkey thing? That was from Zach? I don't think I ever knew that. Shout out to Zach. I love the sock monkeys. Yeah.
Inspiration. Like, I remember it was like on his shelf, and I was like, what's this? He's like, oh, I just think sock monkeys are like cute. Oh, which reminds me, I have a special guest who can join us.
Oh my God, is that it? Is that from the episode? That's phenomenal.
This is the sock monkey.
Oh my God. That's so great. That was an excellent reveal for those of you watching on YouTube. Go to YouTube and watch this moment. A gigantic, as big as Courtney, sock monkey is sitting next to Courtney now.
Was that your pregnancy pillow?
It should have been. It should have been. But yeah, I remember. Well, that was also fun. I remember. I think it was like Phil Lord, and I think it was like it was Bill or Chris or somebody was like, "Dude, when you're a writer, if you write shit into an episode, they get it.
They get it.
You can have
and then
it.
you just take it home." So that's what that was. They got that. They got that for the episode. You didn't bring that to the episode. They got that sock money for the episode. They said, "I'm bringing this home to Zach, and this will be ours." And you have it almost 20 years later. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and then I remember Phil and Chris were like, "Well, did you get the?" And I was like, "They're like, just be like, hey, can I have that sock monkey?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "I don't know. Like, is that allowed?"
And just talking about the sock monkeys, that image, and that, like we were saying earlier, like that montage, those montages where you hear Belle and Sebastian and see slow dissolves of like candles and sock monkeys, and it becomes this sort of weird abstract indie movie for a minute. That was one of those moments. And I remember this was an episode where we screened it in front of an audience. Remember that, Courtney? We would screen to get laughs for the first batch of episodes.
Yes.
And this played great. And I remember feeling like it was so haunting, the disappearing sock monkeys to Belle and Sebastian. But then I remember the audience laughed at it like it was all jokes. And I remember like, you're not supposed to laugh at that part. This is our touching indie movie moment. I was like angry at the audience for laughing, which is really insane. But I will say I hold on to that montage of hearing Belle and Sebastian, one of my favorite bands, and that song I chose. That's one of my favorite Belle and Sebastian songs, We Rule the School. And that moment of seeing a weird abstract montage, sock monkeys and Belle and Sebastian, I was like, we are a different show. We are a different kind of sitcom. We don't quite fit in on CBS all the way. Thank God they stuck with us. We were sandwiched between very different shows on that Monday night comedy lineup. None of them were doing Belle and Sebastian touching montages with disappearing candles and monkeys. And I just remember feeling like that's the show. We have to hold on to that feeling in that little few seconds of film. Hold on to that like it is gold and don't let go, right?
I told Craig this earlier, Courtney, but I remember I loved Belle and Sebastian. It was also one of my favorite bands. And I remember reading the script and feeling like, oh my God, I'm on a show that's using a Belle and Sebastian song as like the central kind of song or theme of the show. And I couldn't believe my good fortune that I ended up on a sitcom and I really felt like I was in the right, I was with my people,
And when you told me you felt that way, I was like, I'm so glad we cast Ted with an actor who loves Belle and Sebastian. It was just one of those, it was us falling in love.
Well, the guy who listens to Belle and Sebastian is not going to go play laser tag on Saturday night. Like that was...
Yes.
It really defines Ted and it defines what's best about the show, those little moments. And episode 4, right? We were still finding it. Those moments early on in the series are like the things you say, okay, that's what our show does. Other shows do other things, but our show can do that.
And I think we'll, as we continue to watch the show, we'll see, oh, you guys really figured this out as we went or figured that out. But I think for the first 4 episodes, it's a really impressive batch of opening jousts. There was a lot that you guys got right or we got right as a team, and everything that ended up becoming kind of a classic kind of How I Met Your Mother. Like the DNA of it is baked into these first 4 episodes all there.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. And I think this one takes a huge credit. I didn't think about this until we started talking today, of showing ways that Robin was funny, right? Robin's not just this sought after perfection, and she's not along for the ride. She's the funniest part of that episode in a lot of ways. She's the comic relief. We made Robin the comic relief for the first time in series, for the first time in series, and that's a big deal. And how great is Kobe? I mean, it's just like she's so hilarious in that episode. And she was finding it. She had not done much comedy coming into this series. She had done a lot of other things, but not much comedy. And I think this was the first time where she was like, I get to play. This is a playground. I'm taking pratfalls. I'm smacking my ass on a live newscast. She just leaned into it. She's like, okay, I get to do this. And this was the beginning of her finding so much talent at comedy. You know what I mean? She felt like someone found it here.
It felt like someone discovering they're like, I'll just do my own stunts. Like she looked like she was like, I don't need pads. I'm just going to do this. Yeah. Like she had a fearlessness about her.
Yeah. She was a natural. She really, it's so fun to see her find that in this episode.
Yes. And especially that end moment with like the horse carriage driver. He's so sweet, and like she's so moved by him, and like her ability to go from the like moved, emotional, like caring And then, you know, right into the big pratfall it's so funny. That was a delight.
I was going to say, do you have a favorite memory of the shoot week? Like we talked about the writing part. Is there anything that comes out at you like that night shoot out on the street where she fell? Like those were always fun. That was one of our first like night shoots out on the New York street that wasn't like a big romantic Ted giving a great speech or something, right?
It's funny because like, you know, the shows that I had been on that didn't work were traditional sitcoms. Like, you know, you're in the bar, you're in the apartment and you shoot it. Yeah. And I remember shooting the Belle and Sebastian stuff, like the sock monkeys, like Dave Baker pulling away another sock monkey, pull away another sock monkey. And I remember like watching it on the monitor and like having the thought, like, can we do this? Like there was like can we, like, will this work? Can you do this? Yeah. And I think that voice sometimes, like as a creator, it's so damaging. Like just fucking do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like just
it's so refreshing. It's exciting to have a scene where like the call sheet says sock monkey and there's no actors in the scene. It's just like there's sock monkeys. We didn't need the cast for that part. Yeah.
I have a crazy story related to this episode, and Alec, you can cut this if it doesn't work. But so Annie Dudek and I, who played Natalie, we became very good friends. And one time I wanted to go to Venice to buy this painting for my friend Jesse, who was opening a new business, and he loved this painting. So Annie came with me. I was going to buy her brunch. If she came with me to buy this painting, we met the artist. She ended up truly marrying this artist. She ended up marrying this guy that I took her to. They're no longer married, but they have two, I think, beautiful children. And this artist, Matthew Heller, told me, he said, "What are you working on?" I said, "I'm on the show How I Met Your Mother," because I actually I had known him weirdly. And he said, "Oh, your set designer has one of my paintings on your set. I think it's in the apartment."
Oh, wow.
And that painting on the mantle
of like the city skyline? Like, is it
it's like an abstract. It's kind of like red and orange. It's like, I can point it out. But that's this painter, Matthew Heller, who I took to meet Annie, and then they reconnected, and then they ended up being married for many years. So I thought that was pretty wild.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of that on How I Met Your Mother. There's a bunch of weird synergy, and like there's like little destiny thing, like what the show is about sort of manifested within the making of the show in some ways.
And Josh, we would never cut that. That's how that guy's kids met, how he met that guy's kid's mother.
That's right.
That's right.
It's very on brand.
Yeah.
It connects to what Courtney is saying of like her whole life, where from when you wrote this episode, I forgot that you got engaged literally right before it aired. That's amazing. You like from your first episode you wrote to 208 later, you know, whatever your last one in season 9 was, like our lives kept happening during the 9 years of this show. And all the while we were taking things from these new chapters of our lives and putting them in there in real time because we were the same age as the actors. And it's sort of like, right? You was like, you had kids and you're like, now you're pitching jokes and story ideas about being a mom. And like, this was like a career, you know, you were mining things from your like struggle part of your career to put into like the Robin story in this episode. It's just interesting how in real time all of that was. We were really mining our lives and living them just right alongside. We're like a few steps ahead of the characters, you and I both, right? Because we both had kids, and like it was interesting how we were kind of almost transcribing our lives up to the minute onto this TV show.
Courtney, I have a question for you. Since you were on from basically day one until the final day, did you feel some like special, deeper connection with the show? Like, did you feel like some, not quite, I don't know if the word is ownership, but like, what was it like to just be there from day one to the final day? Because I remember you and I had a really sweet moment on the very last day. You just came up and you said some lovely things to me, and I'll never forget that. And I'm just curious, like, what was it like for you when you look back at the whole kind of decade?
You know, it was such a gift. Like, I mean, Craig knows this. Like, you know, when you're a writer and you're trying to like get your shit together, your agents, you know, you would read all the pilots. And I read this pilot and I was like, we share an agent, Craig and I, and I called my agent and I was like, I am obsessed with this show. Like, I love this. I think it's so true. I felt like it really spoke to like something I felt. Once again, it goes back to like, I am these characters. Like, these are my friends. Like, this is what we're going through. And I was like, I really feel like there's a real thing that like we're presented, that like this idea that like all guys are players and they want to just like be out there like having sex. And it's like, no, the guys I know are like good guys who like want to find love. Yeah. And the girls are all like, we're into Sex in the City now.
And there was like a shift happening. Yeah.
Yes, totally. There was like this, like we had the women are into the Sex in the City part, but we didn't have the like men are looking to settle down point of view. And I was so passionate about it that like I really did harass my agent, who I think in turn harassed me and Carter.
I remember feeling very confident in the pilot because I'm like, I don't know who this Courtney woman is, but she really wants to be on this fucking show. I remember feeling, like it must be good because she's hunting it down. And you really were. Now, Courtney, I think this is when this line was said, our shared agent, Matt Rice, one of the greats. When you were so excited about the pilot and you really wrestled and threw elbows to get in the room for a meeting with us when the show was getting picked up, what was Matt Rice's advice to you before you came to the meeting with me and Carter? Am I getting this right? You know what I mean? Yeah?
Yes. Yes.
What did he say?
Yes.
You got to say, because it became a catchphrase in the writer's room for a long time.
It became a catchphrase, and he was like, Kang, like, our agent is amazing. Like, I love him. He's like amping me up. He's like, Kang, it's going to be awesome. Like, get in there, like show your enthusiasm. Don't hold back. Tell them how much you love this. Have your jokes ready. Be amped up. I mean, don't Courtney Kang all over the place.
Don't Courtney Kang all over the place.
Don't Courtney Kang all over the place. And I was like, wait, what's Courtney Kanging all over the place? And then I think we were in the meeting, we started talking or something, and somehow we started talking about like MC Hammer, the typewriter. And I think Carter was like, what's that? And so I like jump up and I start doing the like MC Hammer like typewriter.
Oh my God.
And it's right as I'm like this point, I was like, oh, this is Courtney hanging all over the place.
We love you, Courtney. We're so happy you were able to join us. I got married last year, and my wife has never seen How I Met Your Mother. So that was part of the impetus for doing this show, was she really wanted to watch it and fill in this chapter of my life that she never got to witness. So we were watching it together, and we have a segment that we don't have an acronym for it yet, but it's something like questions and observations from a psychologist and relationship expert who's never seen How I Met Your Mother, who also happens to be married to Josh. Something like that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Rolls off the tongue.
Rolls off the tongue. Exactly. We wanted something pithy. So she's sometimes will just tell me what her question is. Sometimes she'll record a voice memo. I have not even heard this one. I just sent it to Alec, but I don't know what this is. So let's hear it.
I think this episode touches upon one of the age-old questions regarding romantic love. Is this the wrong person, or is it just the wrong time? I hear patients ponder this frequently. I think most of us have come across that issue with someone we've dated at one point or another. But I'm wondering, as artists, if maybe you also have this with creative projects. So my question is, what is your return of the shirt, if you're willing to share, with an idea, a concept, or a script that didn't work out in the moment, but you fantasize could potentially work now?
Wow.
Whoa.
That's a mind-blowing question.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I think that is a true theme of the episode. It's like, like you mentioned this actually, like I've changed, maybe my perspective on this relationship changed. She changed. Because certainly, I mean, you hear stories all the time, like we dated in college and it was a disaster and we reconnected in our mid-30s and it was great, you know? And I think that's what Ted is holding out for. But I think Jordana's question around creativity, like, I don't know if you guys are the same way, but I always have so many tabs open. Like I have so many projects that are kind of in various stages of completion or disarray. And sometimes something is just sitting there half formed and it just won't catch fire. And other times something that was sitting there, I'll be re-inspired and the heat will be there and I'll be able to finish it and maybe make it. And I think sometimes like I try to honor the piece of art or the script or the song as having its own kind of arc and intelligence and knowledge about when it's going to be ready. So I really try to be in dialogue with the thing. Like, are you ready to open up to me, or am I ready to put the work in on this? So I've had things that have sat around for a while. I just finished the last song from my album that I'm recording now. I started it on my honeymoon in April, and it was just, I would write like a verse a month, like, and other songs you sit down and they're done in 20 minutes. Like, but I really try to honor the thing and let it be. But I don't throw anything away, because I feel like there might be a day where it calls me back.
And the debate is always, is it a good idea to go back? It's very much from the show. Because sometimes you go back to an idea and you have the moment Ted has of, dear God, I've got to get out of this. Why did I go back to this thing?
Or you remember why you got stuck and threw it away or stopped working on it.
Yeah.
That would happen all the time in the room. Like, we would be like, we had an idea about, the gang goes to the mall. Oh, pull up the notes. Oh, yeah, there was all this great stuff. There was all this stuff. And then you pull up the notes and it was like, the gang goes to the mall. And it was like, that's all we had? Like, wasn't there more? You know what I mean? Like, you remember it sort of more fondly than...
We were right to shrink that mall thing down to just a fake pop song by a Canadian pop star. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
That was it.
Mall has to be a part of the show. What do we do?
We got it in. So, yeah, no, it's true. That feeling of going back to the room notes of something and you go like, that was excellent. That was gold. This is going to catch fire. And you sit there for a whole day and it's basically... I've got to get out of this. There is an energy to these things. There's an energy and things have a time. I agree completely, Josh. I've gotten very like woo-woo about creative stuff lately too. It's like, there's a time. You shouldn't have to force it too much. If something calls you back, you have to be honest. Do you want to go back to that thing?
Yeah.
And Ted was not. It was yet again in this episode. Ted was not honest with himself. He just wanted the shortcut to feeling like, and she'll be the one, and she'll be the answer. And he's rushing, and he was not honest with himself about it.
And I think there is a parallel between relationships and art, where I think there's this very like American idea of like, relationships are work. They require work, and art requires work, and you got to grind away and work. And I actually think that effortlessness is undervalued in both relationships and art. Like,
big time.
We've all caught a wave where writing just feels like our fingers are being moved rather than we're moving them, where you really feel like something's just, you're capturing it. It's just coming through you. And in the same way, like, I struggled in relationships for so long, and it really did feel like work. And then I still have work with my wife. Like, you still have to put forth the effort. You have to apologize when you screwed up and all these things. But there is a kind of ease and effortlessness when I'm with her that feels new and different, and like kind of what I was looking for without being able to even say that at the time, because I didn't know that.
Well, Josh, if Jordana ever gets upset at you, she now knows she can go watch a lot of footage of you getting the shit kicked out of you, starting with episode 4, Return to Church. She's like, I'm a little pissed at Josh.
What if I find her phone and I'm like, why do you have a montage of Ted Mosby getting beaten up? So after our launch yesterday, we received incredible messages from all around the world. They came to us from my Museletter Substack page, from the HIMYM Substack page, from Instagram at How We Made Your Mother, and from our website. And we're reading them all, and we're so grateful to everyone for taking the time to tell us what How I Met Your Mother means to you. This one is from Amy, and it was a response to the Substack that I wrote on my newsletter. And she writes, "The show came out the year after I first got married and had my second child, but it took a few years for me to watch. First watch was when Netflix still did mail DVDs, LOL. The characters were the exact age I was/am in all the years that happened. Loved that. In my late teens, early 20s, I was a Friends fan, watched with my mom, and even got to go to on set there at one point, but they were 10 years older than me, so HIMYM solidified more with me. There's so much realism philosophy in it. My best friend, who's 10 years younger than me, loves it as well. And one example of the greatness/realism she often brings up is the one curly fry, LOL. We both are huge romantics like Ted, but we've been through some rough relationships and had to realize we had some codependent issues and other things we've worked out in therapy and CODA groups. Shout out to CODA and therapy. So that has changed some perspective on the characters and things on the show, but doesn't make us love it any less. The show is cathartic. It's a night watch still. Sometimes I go from the first episode to the last, but often I let Alexa or Siri choose a number of the season and for the season and episode. Sometimes I go to a specific episode if I need to think back on something or process some feelings. I choreographed a Yellow Umbrella ballet to La Vie en Rose last year.
Oh my God.
I've danced to your songs.
Can you send us a clip of that? Please send us a clip of that if you have it.
I've danced to your songs and many other pivotal songs from the show. I have pop culture HIMYM reminders peppered throughout my house, shower curtains, earrings, pictures. I never don't cry or the Robin saying the speech Ted gives before, because so often I've wanted to time travel or skip ahead to adjust things, though ultimately they happen as they should. All just so relatable. I've always been fascinated with the subject of fate, destiny, free will. There's private reasons about who I watched the show with that also tie me to my love of the show. It just is different than any other show and will always have a huge place of comfort and love in my heart. Thank you, Amy. That's so
Thank you, Amy.
Lovely.
So nice. And honestly, please do send us the footage of the dance you choreographed.
Yeah.
We really need
that. And if you're listening, if you want to get your voice on the podcast, we'd love to hear from you. Go to howwemadeyyourmother.com, go to contact and record your actual voice and tell us what How I Met Your Mother means to you.
I am guilty. Please acquit me. All sins are forgiven. In New York City.
How We Made Your Mother is hosted and executive produced by Josh Radnor and Craig Thomas. The show is produced by me, Alec Lev, and our co-producer is Doug Matica. Our audio producer and mixer is Alex Reeves at Point of Blue Studios. Artwork by John Morrow. Please follow, rate, and review the show on Apple Podcasts or your podcast player of choice. It really does help the show. Our theme song is NYC by our own Josh Radnor. Special thanks to Lola Kennedy and Elliot Connors. Visit howwemadeyyourmother.com to sign up for our Substack mailing list and for links to our social media. You can also click on the contact page to send us an email or a voice message. Your stories and questions are an important part of the show. Subscribe to Josh Radnor's Museletters on Substack. Read Craig Thomas's published prose at craigthomaswriter.com, and you can subscribe to my Dead Fathers Society, also on Substack. To learn about how you make a difference, this show's ongoing campaign to raise money for congenital heart disease research, check out the Make a Difference tab at the top of our website. This episode was made possible by the support of Backyard Ventures, marketing provided by Tink Media. People will, in fact, dance.
The real question, it just hit me. Am I in love with you or just New York City?